What type of person were you back in high school during your senior year? Were you the type that did bad things and took drugs and asked questions later? I was that type, and like I mentioned before, I had gone to a continuation school my senior year, and towards the end of my junior year, that's when I started getting to weed, to like a lot of weed smoking, and when I had reached my senior year, that's when I done all this plethora of like different types of drugs. I pretty much did every drug, but anyway, this one specifically, this specific story is when I was pretty much that's when I had my first drug charge. I was caught with possession of marijuana, and I was pretty much almost a felon. Like it's pretty scary to think, in hindsight, looking in hindsight, just like what could have happened if I did get charged with these crazy like drug offenses. Like where would I be today? You know what I mean? I've been so lucky in my life, been so fortunate, and yeah, just way too many close calls. So anyway, one day we were every lunch, the school that I went to, they would let you out for during lunch, they would let you out during within those 30 minutes, and as long as you came back in time to come back for class, they would let you out. And a lot of us, we went to go get something to eat, and headed back to school. Well, except for our group, every lunch break we would go to the liquor store and wait for like some older man to get us some liquor. So we'd do that, pop some pills, and smoke some weed. So we did that, the whole trifecta. We did that. We did that pretty much every day, and we would go back to school like that, pretty fucked up. And this one day it was me and two of my other friends. At the time, we had it was during lunch, and I had some weed on me. So we went across the street from the continuation school that I'm at. We went across the street, which is a I think it's elementary school or a kindergarten school, which is, if you are within 1,000 feet of a church or a drug-free zone, which is like a elementary or kindergarten school or whatever, that is a felony. You can be charged as a felon, which is pretty terrifying. And so yeah, I had weed on me, and we went literally right behind the school of the elementary school. We went literally right behind it, and so we started taking the tobacco off the cigarette that we had. It was a Camel Crush, and we took out like about half of it, right? Half of the tobacco, emptied it out. We emptied it out on the floor, and we had packed it with some bud. I think it was like some orange Kush, and yeah, we had packed that whole cigarette pretty packed to the top, and we lit that up. And one of my friends, he's like, I guess he heard one of the people that had lived there, one of the neighboring people. He was like, hey, I think someone's calling the cops on us. And literally my whole senior year, that's when I just didn't give a fuck. Like I didn't care, and I was like, I don't give a fuck. And I thought he was paranoid at first. I was like, nah, I think you're paranoid. And so it turns out that they actually did call the cops on us. I think some lady ended up calling the cops. I didn't actually hear her, but I guess I guess she did. And so when we had finished smoking, me and my two other friends, as we were walking back to school, and let me remind you, the school is literally, I don't even know how, it's extremely close. Like it's literally right across the street. So anyway, as we're walking back, we're like halfway there. The cops from the school, there used to be some cops at the continuation school because it was just so bad. So the cop pulls up, and they're the ones that had received that call. So they end up pulling us over, and we ended up pretty much getting in trouble. I mean, we looked high, we smelled high, and what's funny is after we got patted down, the cops were like, "Do you have anything?" and this and that. "Do you have anything on you?" After they had patted us down already, that's when I was like, okay, I have some weed on me, because that's how paranoid I was. Which is kind of funny because looking back on it, I could have gotten away with it. I mean, I probably would have avoided that drug charge because they already had patted me down. They didn't feel anything on me. Because I had always kept I had always kept the weed like I kept every drug tucked into my socks. So that's how I pretty much got a, that was my pocket for me. I never kept shit in my pocket or anywhere else for that matter. I think I had shoes that Sky Top Supras, and those shoes are awesome because in the tongue of the shoe, it actually has a little pocket right there. So those are awesome. I need to get me some more of those. Not for drugs, obviously, but anyway, so we ended up getting caught, and I was the one that got mostly in trouble. You know what I mean? Obviously, because I was the one that had it on me, and so they took us back to the school. The policeman had to like freaking write out the paper and stuff like that. And I remember that day was horrible. I had to put my mom. I had to put my mom through like hell, pretty much. She found pretty much every drug that I've done. She pretty much has found out, which is pretty sad. But she's awesome. She's an awesome mother. She's supported me through it all. She never gave up on me. And so anyway, we had a court date. I had a court date, and so luckily the judge, he wasn't an asshole. He seemed like an asshole, but he was actually pretty nice. And he gave me like three options. The first two were kind of the same, like a shitload of community service and I don't know what else, pretty much. Community service and fuck, I really don't. I can't remember. I just pretty much remember the one that I had. The first two were kind of the same though, which is, yeah, like I said, a lot of hours of community service. And the one that I chose, he was like, the third option has the most restrictions, but it gets wiped off your record. And I was like, well, obviously, yeah, I want that one. So I had to be enrolled in school and passing grades. I had to do some meetings. What else? I had to do like random drug tests. My curfew was 8 o'clock. And what else? I think that's it pretty much. Yeah. And so I ended up choosing that one. And what made it look even better for me was that was the time that my drug counselor was like, that's when he had told me like, hey, you have an ultimatum. You need to go to rehab. Because that's when I was just doing really bad, and I was worried about, like, well, what about school? I'm not gonna be able to graduate. And he's like, well, what's more important, your sobriety or your school right now? He's like, because you can die from that. And I'm like, yeah, it's true. So anyway, getting off topic. But anyway, the court date, the judge, he ended up being when I told him that I was already going into rehab, he was like, it kind of worked in my favor. He was like really impressed with that. And so he's like, all right, well, you still need to be in school though. You still need to be have passing grades. So I ended up doing all of that except for the curfew thing. I didn't end up freaking what's it called? When I was staying at the rehab, we can go out at night, and I didn't. My curfew wasn't fucking 8 o'clock. I didn't. That's like the only rule that I didn't follow. And so yeah, so it was just pretty crazy because I could have been a felon. But anyway, guys, I don't want to bore you, and I don't want this story to drag on. But yeah, guys, that's just my freaking crazy story of how I almost was a felon. So if you guys want to show some support, please like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.